It is a battle of the X's as Steven Stamkos and Nick Perbix hope to get their seasons going against their former team. What's it going to take for Nashville to win, and how is Tampa Bay going to bounce back from their season? We'll tell you on a special crossover edition of the Locked On Predators and Locked On Lightning podcast.
You're Locked On Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to this very special edition of the Locked On Predators and Locked On Lightning podcast. Thanks for making our shows your first listen of the day. We are, of course, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We have got to kick off this very special crossover edition, shouting out all of the everydayers who tune in to watch our shows. This is going to be an especially great morning for the Locked On Predators OGs, because I am joined today by the OG partner in crime, Nick. Where have you been all my life besides watching a team win?
And oh my God, we're back. Speaking of Battle of the X's, forget Steven Stamkos or Nick Perbix. It's Nick, Morgan, Ann Kimmel.
That's right. We've done this a time or two. For any of you who are new around here, Nick was the OG co-host at Locked On Predators. Now he has moved on to Locked On Lightning, which, fine.
Sure.
Fine. You spared yourself 84 years of aging like two-term presidents last season, Nick. So
I got out at the right time. Let me just say that.
You surely did. We're going to be sharing our insights into tonight's game. This is, of course, a special game day crossover. The Nashville Predators are hosting the Tampa Bay Lightning tonight at Bridgestone Arena. We are going to talk through what has been going on to start the season for Tampa Bay and how worried they are down in Florida about that. We're also going to talk about Steven Stamkos. Before we dive into all of that, we do want to let you know today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and with $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. All right, Nick, now you and I could catch up about, outside of hockey stuff, but we're going to try to stay focused here for the next 30 minutes on hockey. So, yeah, we'll do our best. Yeah. Lots of stories going on between our two teams. So I am very curious. At the beginning of the season, before the first puck drop, I heard a lot of people say, who's poised to make a run for it? Tampa Bay Lightning.
I said that same thing too.
Yes, like they're right there. They have what they need, and this could be the year they get back there. And then the season started for you all. That had to be fun.
I thought I was cursed. I thought I was, look, I left Locked On Predators to go to a team that wins, and now the worst start in franchise history. Here's Nick Morgan for it again.
Love that.
Yeah, good times. I will say this past weekend, I think, quelled some fears for Tampa Bay Lightning fans, because it was the type of hockey that fans are used to seeing around here. At the beginning of the season, a lot of things that went wrong could have gone wrong. Andrei Vasilevskiy didn't really start out of the gate great. You had Nikita Kucherov, who was kind of off to a weird start, had a lot of points, but also was on the ice for a lot of goals against. Just some players that you're kind of used to seeing step up their game weren't at that point yet. Things have settled down a little bit. They've gotten healthier. Zemgus Girgensons just came back last week from an injury that kept him out at the start of the year. JJ Moser has played great on the blue line. He, of course, missed the beginning of the season, was suspended from that whole Florida preseason fiasco.
That was a thing.
Yeah, both goaltenders have played great the past week or so, Andrei Vasilevskiy and Jonas Johansson, the backup. So things are starting to turn in the right direction for Tampa a little bit. And John Cooper said it after last game. He's like, I think the way we played lately, we're going to look back on this start 60, 70 games into the season and laugh. So I think that's where Tampa is now. I think they're back on a level ground. Maybe we'll have to see if they can build some momentum this week before we are able to lock that in.
Yeah. How concerning was it as that was going on? Especially like you look at Andrei Vasilevskiy. Look, this is a guy, he is he's just, what you're going to get from him every time. This is just a fantastic goaltender. How concerning was it to see some of this going on? And did you feel like, this is a team, we're going to get it together?
It's one of those things where you kind of have to balance it being the first 2 weeks of the season.
Yeah.
With seeing them repeat the same mistakes over and over again. Like some of it dated back to last year. Like Tampa Bay last year took a lot of unnecessary penalties, a lot of stick penalties, a lot of very preventable holding, hooking type stuff.
Yeah.
And that was a big thing at the beginning of the year as well. So it's interesting because you never want to hit the panic button 2 weeks in. But it was a question of, why are we 7 games in the season and talking about the same bugaboos over and over at the end of each game? So I think you had a lot of fans certainly who were ready to just pound the panic button right then and there. I think we were a little bit restrained. Like, let's see how they get through this next stretch, but our hand is maybe right here. I think our hand's a little further away right now.
Yeah. And you say John Cooper's cool. He is the longest tenured. Isn't he the longest tenured NHL
he is
coach?
Now the longest tenured head coach. Yeah.
Let's go. Yeah. I just don't feel like, no matter how bad your start is, his job is not in trouble, which it sounds amazing to not have to talk about coaching. Has that been any question at all with this start with Tampa Bay, or is he just sleeping fine at night?
It's complicated because you have seen some, not necessarily from us at Locked On Lightning, but you've seen some stuff around the league where it's like, how long is John Cooper's leash if the Lightning doesn't turn it around? I don't think there was any sort of internal talk in that Lightning front office from Julien Brisebois or anybody else about we need to make a coaching change here. I think John Cooper has probably an argument to be one of the 3 best coaches of this generation of NHL.
Yeah.
And I don't think, I would say if there is somebody that you would want leading your team out of a slump like this, it's John Cooper, right?
Yeah.
Clearly he's one of the best coaches in the NHL. That's somebody that you can trust that's going to turn the team around. I don't think there is any serious question of John Cooper losing the job. I think if maybe the slump had gone on, or if we're sitting here around Thanksgiving, the Lightning are in the bottom 3, then maybe there's some chatter from out in the universe somewhere. But I don't think people were going to take a 7-game start and cut John Cooper loose. We're not Penn State, Ann.
Hey now. I always say to myself after that happened, look, I could be a bad coach for $50 million.
Yeah.
Like, let's give me the opportunity to buy me out. Come on, you all.
Yeah. Locked On hockey coordinator Sean Woodley, if you're listening to this and you don't like the job I'm doing, there's a buyout on the table. If there's a $50 million buyout, feel free to let me know, my friend.
That's
feel free
right.
to come to this.
That's right. Nick and I can walk if you're unhappy. We get it.
We're happy to walk. I want to ask about the Nashville Predators, Ann, because when I last left, we left right before the whole Steven Stamkos, Jonathan Marchessault, Brady Shea offseason.
How about that?
That turned out fun. And I got to ask, because it seems like the Nashville Predators are in a weird spot right now. It seems like there's still the veteran-centric group there right now that indicates, okay, this team is going to try to make a run. But it also seems like maybe you're finally seeing hints of that youth movement that Barry Trotz has been but promising fans for the second he took over.
Yeah. Since the Nick Morgan days.
Yes.
Yeah. We're sort of trapped in a weird space. Barry Trotz says the plan is in pen, the path is in pencil. He also says it's a build, it's not a rebuild, but none of us really know what that means. And while you have these veterans and part of their role is to raise up these young players that Nashville is bringing into the NHL right now, you still see the focus and the weight of carrying this team is still solely on the shoulders of these veterans. And so that transition of, what we're focusing on the youth, while some of the youth are here, it's not the focus. So it's a very odd situation right now for the Nashville Predators. I'm like, this is the slowest transition ever. This is a little bit like evolution. It's not like changing your outfit. We're in an evolutionary movement here. So while we are seeing some young players, Fedor Svechkov, we had Brady Martin here for a little while. We've got some of these young players. Ann Kimmel has been up here. Now he's back in Milwaukee. The onus on winning games falls solely on the veterans still. And it's a really, really delicate situation in the locker room, in the front office, and in Nashville. Very delicate situation here.
There's somebody specific that I'm sure my Locked On Lightning audience would probably like to talk about, and I'm sure we'll get to that in the second segment. I think for me, the first question I want to ask is, has there been any talk in Nashville about hitting full send on the rebuild and just saying, look, obviously we're not going to win a cup with this core of veteran players. Yossi's 36 now. Philip Forsberg's got to be early 30s. Some of their big signings are up there. Has there been any talk about, look, these guys are not going to be a central part of a cup team. We've got to tear this down and fully commit to starting from scratch?
There is a lot of that talk, but it is not coming from the front office. And that is what is so interesting, because Barry Trotz, the messaging from the front office is still, we're doing the right thing. We're doing what Washington did. We're doing this slow transition. We're going to do a slow handoff of power. But there's not a lot of young players given an opportunity to receive such power. And Nashville remains in the mushy middle. And what do you get when you finish a season in the mushy middle? You don't get great high draft picks. I mean, they were horrible. I don't know if anybody from Tampa Bay missed it, but they were horrible last season. Third worst team in the league. They ended up with the 5th overall pick, but that's very rare. And Barry Trotz is not somebody who is going to tank for McKenna. Yeah. Whether, Nashville needs it or not. And so, I think that there are a lot of people that feel like, hey, this team needs to, as my Graham would say delicately, poop or get off the pot. But we're lingering. I
do love the commitment from Barry Trotz, where it's like, if we're going to be bad, we're going to be bad organically. We're not going to try to be bad. We're going to be bad trying to be good. Like our forefathers did before us.
Yes, it's just naturally going to come. The results are naturally going to be similar to what they were. Maybe not last season, maybe a little better, but also realistically speaking, in the Central Division, the results are probably going to be what they were last season, even if this team is significantly better, because Nashville, Josi and Forsberg, and we'll talk about Stamkos and all of that, UC Saros, all of that. This is not a complete team like Colorado, Dallas, Utah, this in the Central Division. I secretly, if I were not in the Central Division, I would love that storyline. So, it's almost like some of us ask ourselves, are we seeing what Barry Trotz is seeing? Are we looking at the same thing here? Yeah.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
I mean, and I want the Preds to do good, but I agree. It just feels like they're in such a weird spot. And I think you're at the point where it's like, I don't know if you can easily turn this into a full rebuild without some hard pills to swallow, without really kind of committing to not having a lot to build around for a year or two. Because it's getting some of these contracts off the books is not.
That's just it.
Yeah.
They have a lot of no move contracts. They've got a lot of not great value contracts. Even if he wanted to, I don't know that Barry Trotz could launch a full rebuild right now.
No. All right. Well, I don't have my fireball next to me, Ann, but should we take a break, recenter, and then talk about Steven Stamkos?
Oh, we should do that. Yeah. Yeah. We've got some things to discuss, y'all.
We do.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Monarch Money. Let's be honest. Most of us can't name all of our financial accounts, let alone what they are worth between 401ks, savings, and investments. It's so easy to lose track, and that can mean leaving money on the table. That's why I started using Monarch. It is an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. It has helped me organize all of my accounts. It helps me track spending and get a better handle on what's going on with my investments without ever having to create or touch a spreadsheet. I love that I can review everything with my husband. We can see our shared goals and make better financial decisions together. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use our code LOCKEDONNHL at monarch.com for 50% off your first year. That is monarch.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. All right, Nick, are we going to talk about the elephant in the room? And I think we both know it's Nick Perbix.
Yeah, obviously we want Nick Perbix back.
Well,
actually, my friend Greg Steven, Locked On Lightning co-host, will probably slap me in the face for saying that because he wasn't a Perbix fan, but
he's
like
done really well
great
here. Yeah, he's been a really good fit here. Now he's playing with Brady Shea, and Brady Shea has had some games that were okay. And then Brady Shea has had some other games where we're like, thank you, Jesus, for Nick Perbix.
Yeah.
So yeah, Nick Perbix, delightful fellow.
Look at him. Better than the other Lightning alumni. Well, I guess there's a couple because Jonathan Marchessault's on there too. But no, let's dive into this. Let's dive into Steven Stamkos a bit, Ann. Last week on Locked On Lightning, we kind of broke down some storylines from around the league, and one of them was Stamkos in Nashville this year.
Yeah,
our debate was just kind of, is he cooked? So I'll ask you, as somebody who covers him, is Steven Stamkos cooked?
I wish I had an easy answer for that because, again, I go back to, is Barry Trotz ever going to say, look, this didn't work, my bad? I don't know. And he loves Steven Stamkos. And Nashville in general was super excited to get Steven Stamkos. Of course, last year was a disaster, but that was up and down the roster. Like there was nobody who had a great season last season. The team never got it together. They never figured out how to mesh together Nashville and Andrew Brunette's style of play with Jonathan Marchessault and Steven Stamkos, who play a different style. And this season, Marchessault seems to have made a little bit easier transition into understanding what Andrew Brunette wants and how this team plays and what they think they need to do to win. But Steven Stamkos feels a little bit like he's the guy on the island by himself now, because Nashville is all about the physicality. It's the dump and chase game. It's like, we're going to beat you along the boards and we are going to wear you down. And we've got UC Saros and net to keep the game close until you're done. And then we're going to score some greasy goals and hope for the best. And then there's Steven Stamkos, who is, the guy you want on the power play. Nashville's is currently second worst in the league. Thank you, Carolina. Second worst.
Right where I left you.
Right. Yeah. We're just moving right on up like the Jeffersons. But there is a continued struggle to figure out what it's going to take to get Steven Stamkos going. Right now, noted offensive juggernaut Cole Smith has outscored Steven Stamkos so far this season. That's right, Nick. You get that. Like, you feel that in your gut, don't you?
I do. God, Cole Smith is still there. Colton Sissons is somewhere in Vegas, but Cole Smith is the guy who keeps coming back.
Yeah, Cole Smith. Yeah. So it's not working. It's not working. It's not working offensively at 5-on-5. It's not working on the power play. Mm-hmm. Steven Stamkos is not working on the power play, Nick. So we're kind of all left with what is working here in Nashville for Stamkos.
It's interesting to me because watching it from afar, it would seem like him being on the power play would be his one strength. Because that was kind of what it was in his last season in Tampa. If you ask a lot of fans, they're like, we didn't really trust him 5-on-5. We didn't trust him a lot in defensive situations, but you put him out there on the power play, especially with a guy like Nikita Kucherov feeding him passes to the point every time. That's where prime Steven Stamkos is going to come out. To me, it just doesn't seem like Nashville has that playmaker. I mean, obviously, there's every team short of Nathan McKinnon or Connor McDavid who don't have somebody like Nikita Kucherov to throw them passes, but
Right.
it seems like when have you seen the movie Moneyball?
Yes, I love that movie.
I always picture the scene where David Justice is in the batting cage and Brad Pitt, Billy Bean comes down, and David Justice is like, oh, you need me to hit home runs. That's why you're paying me, $10 million. And Brad Pitt goes, I'm not paying you $10 million. Yankees are paying most of your salary. I'm paying you like $1 million. He's like, this team's paying this much money for you not to be here. And then he looks him in the eye and says, I'm not paying you for what you were. I'm paying you for the player you were now.
Yeah.
I think Barry Trotz paid Steven Stamkos to be the player he was.
Yes.
And I think that's maybe the big problem is I think he is bringing Steven Stamkos in to be this big facilitator of offense, this guy who the play runs through, this guy who's able to set up and creates plays on his own. And that just wasn't Steven Stamkos' last few years in Tampa. I think John Cooper and the team found a really good way of utilizing, which was just, hey, you have, short of Alexander Ovechkin, the best shot of our generation. Just shoot the puck. We're going to feed you from the point and you shoot. You be the finisher. And it just feels like Nashville has tried to unlock prime Steven Stamkos instead of looking at him and being, what's his strengths? What can he offer? How do we fit him into the lineup? And it feels like the pressure has gotten to him a little bit. And it feels like, and correct me if I'm wrong, it just feels like maybe you're relying on Stamkos a little bit too much to be that old school Steven Stamkos.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that happening. I think that Barry Trotz felt like, hey, it didn't work in Tampa because of money, but we've got money. What we don't have is you. So you come here and you bring with you what we know of you in Tampa. But again, what didn't come with him, and this is a discussion that a lot of people in Nashville have, what did come with him was a Kucherov. Now, on the power play, you've got Roman Josi, who can get the puck to him. He's out right now. Yosi's out right now. But there are fundamental cracks that I think we're starting to see in conversations. And to pull that curtain back, there, of course, the discussion in the locker room is what's going on with the power play. Why does the power play suck? If you look at this top unit power play on paper, you cannot figure out why does it suck. It's Marchessault, it's Forsberg, it's O'Reilly, it's Roman Josi, it's Steven Stamkos. How does that power play suck? But there are fundamental differences in how this works, because when you ask that question to Andrew Brunette, you ask that question to Philip Forsberg, you ask that question to Roman Josi, the answer is it needs to be quicker. We've got to move quicker. We've got to get in there and we've got to get pucks on net. Then we go and we ask Steven Stamkos, and Steven Stamkos says, you've got to slow it down. You've got to slow it down and you've got to let guys get set up where they are successful. And then you've got to wait for that opportunity and then get the puck to that person in that moment. And so you're like, wow, those feel like two very different things, two very different ideas of how you are going to be successful on the power play. Awkward.
Yeah, it kind of feels like the rest of the Preds are the group of girls that's like, we're going to the bar, we're turning up tonight, and Steven Stamkos is, let's just stay home and play Scrabble.
Right.
Let's have a glass of wine and have a chill night in.
Yeah. Let's watch Moneyball. Great movie. I'm sure there's a Penn State connection in there somewhere. There's always a Penn State connection, friend.
Last thing on Stamkos, and then we can get to some keys to the game. But every time I look around, I see the headlines of Steven Stamkos. Does Nashville regret signing him? Does Steven Stamkos regret signing in Nashville? Is there a possibility of a trade? I kind of want to get your take on what's the mindset in the locker room and in the front office surrounding Stamkos right now. And do you think there's a possibility that they, just hit the cancel button at some point this season or in the off season?
The messaging from the locker room and front office is nothing about Stamkos isn't working here. That there is no messaging coming from them. But I think when you look at what is happening on ice, and it is still early in the season, look, Stamkos could get going. Tonight may be the night, because who doesn't want to show off in front of their ex? So maybe tonight is the night. So I don't think there is panic yet. And there's no messaging coming from Barry Trotz like that at all. But I think you do have to, at some point, if this continues, you have to say, look, square peg, round hole. Fundamentally, Steven Stamkos comes from a system that is very different than how Nashville is going to play. The pitch made to Steven Stamkos by Barry Trotz was, come here and contend. And then last year happened. And now the message is, well, hey, help us grow these young players in this youth movement. Steven Stamkos did not come here to mentor. Steven Stamkos was told, you come here and we're going to try to win. And so I can't fault Stamkos if he is feeling a little disenfranchised, because all of a sudden his job description has changed. And I don't know how much longer that dissonance is going to work either for Stamkos or for the franchise. So it's a lot of wait and see for the fan base, but I think the fan base is ready to say, hey, did you notice that this doesn't seem to be working? Well, sooner than the franchise is ever going to say anything like that. Also, who's going to take on that contract? It's another $8 million contract.
Yeah. No, I've seen a lot of people. It's like, oh, would Tampa take him back? Tampa doesn't have the cap space, people. No, it's but I do know a lot of people around here in Tampa Bay really love Steven Stamkos. It's not a bitter exit, I think, at all. And I know that they want to see him succeed. And, if there's a place where he could get one last cup run, whether that's Nashville, whether that's somewhere else, I know Lightning fans would be all for it. Yeah. Maybe unless it's Florida.
Oh, whoa. Ew. Yeah. Now, and I will say this, Steven Stamkos is well respected and liked in the locker room among his teammates and in the fan base. I just think everybody is like, what are we doing? What do we do with him? How can we fix this? And it feels like maybe, is there a fix? I don't know. We'll wait and see.
We'll have to see. Maybe he's a key to the game tonight.
Yeah.
Maybe he's somebody that gets in hoot. Let's talk about keys to the game, what Nashville needs to do and what Tampa needs to do to win this one in just 1 second. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Guys, it's not just hockey in full swing. The NBA is officially back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score the next point to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push towards a W. Here's something else exciting. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Tonight, Nashville hosting the Tampa Bay Lightning. I'm guessing maybe Steven Stamkos hosted some friends last night. Who knows? We'll ask around. We'll find out.
For wine and Scrabble.
Wine and Scrabble. In the background, Moneyball will be playing on the big screen. Absolutely. What a night. Yeah. Nick, we've talked about Tampa Bay off to a little bit of a tough start, but starting to pull it together. What does Tampa Bay have to do to get a win tonight here in Nashville? And how important is that where Tampa Bay's at right now?
There's two big things that stand out for me. One is the power play. Obviously, Tampa Bay has an arsenal of great offensive players, and they have, for the past decade, absolutely destroyed teams with that power play. This year, it's been a little slow to get going, especially this weekend. They went 1-11 on the power play over this past weekend. They won both games, but obviously, if teams give you that many chances, the way you separate yourself from the other teams is taking advantage and making teams pay when you make a mistake. That to me is going to be a big key tonight. And in that same vein, turnovers are becoming a major problem for the Lightning this year, in the bottom 5 in the league in terms of giveaways. And, when we were talking about the Predators all those years back, those 3 years I was there, it was always the way the Predators would win is they would get outshot. They would, seem like they never had the puck. But as soon as the other team made that one mistake, you had those gritty group of Preds who would jump on it and score and make the other team pay and wind up with like a 2-1 win or something like that. That's kind of been what the Lightning have been prone to doing this year, especially their last loss against the Blackhawks. They were controlling that game, and then 1 or 2 mistakes open the door for the other team. They have to control the giveaways in this game. They have to control the puck, and they have to make smart plays. That to me is going to be a key to winning this game, especially because I don't think UC Saros is going to give the Lightning much room for error on the scoreboard.
Yeah, this, having covered the Predators, the narrative around Saros is he's a slow starter. Takes him a while. He needs some runway to get going. Not this season, friends. UC Saros has been very, very good. And we expect that he'll be in net tonight. So yeah, I do think that Saros for the Predators in every game where he has been the starter has been key. And he has stolen games already for the Nashville Predators. When you look at advanced statistics, it's all come down to UC Saros. So for us, we need Saros to Saros. It's a verb in Nashville if you've watched Saros play in net. So, that's going to be a huge key. You talk about special teams, and I think that is such a discussion. Nashville's penalty kill has been fantastic. At home, I think they were, this is off the top of my head, I think they were 27 for 27 until, with 1 second left, they gave up a power play goal to Dallas. Wah, wah, wah.
No.
So the penalty kill has been really, really good. The problem is that Nashville has continued to practice it in games.
Yeah.
You know what I say, Nick.
There's no snacks in the sin bin.
What are we doing? There's nothing there. It's body armor, the same thing that's on the bench. Stop going to the penalty box. So that is going to be huge for Nashville because, like you said, maybe Tampa Bay numerically has not been where they usually are on the power play, but nobody here is that dumb. We know what's going to happen. Like, we know what Tampa Bay can do. And while the penalty kill for Nashville is very, very good, I think special teams in a game like this could swing it, because I think both teams are trying to find their footing, and it's whatever team gets the advantage and capitalizes on it. I think that's going to be huge. Steven Stamkos is also going to be a factor in this game. Last year he returned to Tampa Bay. I think it was like the 5th or 6th game of the season. So we got that out of the way pretty quickly. And we've done that. We've seen them. Like, you've paraded past the ex with your new boyfriend and everything is fine. But Stamkos, like we said, he has not gotten going. Last game, they moved him from wing to center, something that Barry Trotz said, we really don't want to do that this season. Well, we're 10 games in, and we're doing that.
Here we are.
10 games in, ladies and gentlemen. And I think that Andrew Brunette is desperate to do whatever he can to get Steven Stamkos going. At this point, we don't care if it's on the power play. We don't care if it's 5-on-5. For the love of God, get the man going. Like, let him score a goal. He needs to do that. And I think if he can do that tonight, against Tampa Bay, that will help. And at some point, I don't care who it's against. I don't care if it's against a 10U team. Steven Stamkos has to start scoring goals and getting some confidence and feeling like he fits in this system and can contribute. So Stamkos tonight, I think it's going to be a really big story. I think a lot of people are going to be watching.
Yeah, I'm with you. It feels like maybe the pomp and circumstance of playing his old team is done. That was handled last year. It's kind of more back to normalcy this year. I mean, but I do think for Stamkos, there is maybe, I think, extra incentive to get going for this game.
Yeah,
because I think there is maybe the more chatter there is about, does he regret leaving Tampa Bay, yada, yada, yada. I think the more it is that he's going to be focused to try to come in and be like, no, I want to win in Nashville. So knowing Steven Stamkos, I do think this is going to be a big game for him. I want to ask you, Ann, one kind of final question, not on the rundown, so I'm just kind of throwing a curveball.
That's okay.
But
Let's go.
obviously, Preds fans know Stamkos, or Lightning fans know Stamkos. They know, Forsberg, Yossi. Give me somebody that maybe the casual Tampa fan doesn't know that you think is going to be a player to watch tonight.
Ozzy Weisblatt. And you may say, I'm sorry, what? God bless you. Ozzy Weisblatt and the fourth line with, again, noted offensive juggernaut Cole Smith and centered by Michael McCarron. And I know it sounds crazy to be talking about the fourth line, but this fourth line has been very, very good lately. Michael McCarron, Cole Smith, you know this, Nick, they played together for a long time. They had Kiefer Sherwood for a while until he moved on, but they have found Kiefer Sherwood 2.0 in Ozzy Weisblatt, who is scrappy AF, no fear, but also a lot more upside offensively than Smith and McCarron have had maybe on their line recently. So Ozzy Weisblatt, under the radar guy that I think Tampa Bay fans are going to notice on the ice and say, who is 89 and what is he doing? Ozzy Weisblatt, under the radar player that I think everybody should keep an eye on. Tampa Bay, not a lot of under the radar players in Tampa Bay, friend.
No, that one's a little bit easier, but I am going to throw out a name that I think Barry Trotz just salivates over if he was on the Nashville Predators, and that's Dominic James. Now, that is a really new name because this is only going to be his third NHL game.
Oh, Trotz is going to love that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, if, Andrew Burnett might bench him just hearing that, but But if you watch Dominic James play, he's a player you're going to fall in love with. He is gritty. He hustles to the puck. And in his second NHL game, they gave him a lot of shifts against Mitch Marner, and he dominated Mitch Marner. He was throwing the body around. He was, going at him. He was knocking the puck off of his stick. This is a gritty, hard-nosed player. And John Cooper and Julian Breezewall love him so much. They actually just waived Mitchell Chaffee, who played the entire last season in Tampa Bay, to give Dominic James some more opportunity up here. So when he's out there, watch him tonight, because that's a player I think a lot of people are going to fall in love with. 17 on the Tampa Bay Lightning roster.
All right. Let's, I hate doing this. This just raises my anxiety, but let's just go ahead and make a prediction here, Nick. Okay. Who's going to win it and a final score?
Well, I'm sure this will be wrong now that I do it, but I'm going to go Tampa Bay 4-2. And I think the momentum that Tampa showed over these last two weekend games shows that some of the wrongs from the beginning of the season have started to be righted. The ship is now moving in the right direction. And I think you're going to start seeing all these players like Nikita Kucherov and Braden Point, who have gotten off to iffy starts, start to settle it down a little bit and get more into their mojo. So I'm predicting a 4-2 game. I think Saros keeps it close. That fourth goal is an empty netter at the end.
Okay. I hate to copy you, but absolutely same, but for different reasons. I think, I would love to see Nashville win this. Nashville needs to win this. This is the fifth of a 5-game homestand. They are 2-2 on the homestand. They really need this win because they too are starting to fix some of the early problems that had all of us going, oh, not this again. So we're starting to see progress with Nashville. The problem is goal scoring. They get stuck at 2 goals. It's very difficult for this team to cash in more than 2 goals. And I do think it's going to be close. I think Saros is going to be the factor that keeps it close. If Steven Stamkos gets going, and I really do think Steven Stamkos may be a key here. If Stamkos gets going, it's going to stay interesting. But I'm a little nervous about this one, and I would not be surprised if it was 4-2 Tampa Bay.
Are you coming up short of giving a Steven Stamkos scores a goal prediction?
I mean, I don't have my Tums at my desk. I get
just for
angsty.
vibes.
I'm feeling, I would not be surprised. Like, just that is what the hockey gods do. Every so often they throw you a storyline that makes you think, okay, maybe this sport is not going to be what kills me. So you know what? Steven Stamkos, penalize us, you all. I mean, first of all, it won't scare you at all. So just high stick somebody and let's see what happens.
Yeah. Put
Maybe.
the wine and Scrabble down and go out and have a couple
Yeah.
tequila shots with your friends. On the ice.
Moneyball is going to be on next Saturday on TNT. It's always on.
It is on Blu-ray in the archives.
That's right.
And this has been fantastic. It's been so great catching up with you, talking about hockey and our, shared love of the Nashville Predators. Maybe someday you'll join me in talking the shared love of Tampa Bay Lightning. If you're not there yet.
Maybe tomorrow is a better chance.
Tomorrow. Yeah. We'll see how the tonight's game goes, but
yeah,
it's always a pleasure. For all you Locked On Lightning listeners, go check her out. Also, Emma Lingen on Locked On Predators. You can find them wherever you get your podcast.
Yep. And Nashville Predators fans, now that you have refound the OG, you can check out Locked On Lightning anywhere you get your favorite podcasts. They're going to keep you up to date on everything Tampa Bay 5 days a week. Nick, always a delight. Great to see your face again. And for everybody listening, puck drop 7:45 Eastern, 6:45 Central Time. They're doing that. They're doing that thing again.
Puck, the red zone of the NHL.
The red zone of the NHL. So enjoy that game. Make sure you tune in tomorrow to our respective shows. We're going to break down everything we see. Best of luck, Nick, and we will catch up another time this season.
For sure.